Hello lovely people, it's Loretta. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing well today. Welcome back to another Circle and Stitches video. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to do because we're kind of getting to the point where there's not a whole lot of stitches left that I know personally that do well on circles. So now it's kind of just repeating, repeating what we've learned. But anyway, so just very quickly going over the ones that we've already done here. These have been so much fun. Really enjoy doing these. It's going to be this cute little wall hanging when I'm finished. Love that Palestrina stitch. Oh, I love it. Okay, so I actually have two for you today. This one, and this is what I mean by just kind of repeating what we've already done. This one is just a repeat of everything I've already showed you how to do. I did a buttonhole stitch here, also known as a blanket stitch. I just did straight lines in two different sizes, like these are longer than these, and then I did some lazy daisies in the middle, and I did French knots on the outside. It's in variegated thread. I used this Valdani size 8. I think it's color M90 is what I think it's called. Anyway, it's a pearl cotton. I thought it went really well with the fabric. It's like almost like it was made for it. And so I've already showed you how to do all those stitches. So that was just my variation on them. And then this one is the same thing. This is just a Y stitch, or trying to think where the other blocks that I've done this on. Yeah, so I just did the Y stitch just like on here, only I did it actually on the outside. And then in the middle I put this little piece of trim. I have, let's see if I can find it here on my desk. I thought it was just laying right here, but I don't see it. But anyway, it's just like a sheet of, oh, here it is. Yeah, like this, like a very old doily or whatever. And I just cut one of these circles out and put it on there. I did 2 French knots in the middle, and then I just did some beads all along the outside. So what I'm going to actually show you, so none of this except maybe the beads, you already know how to do. You can use anything you want in the middle. You could use a yo-yo or your own piece of trim, whatever you have. I actually really like the way this one turned out. I love the colors. So what I'm going to show you today actually is the beading part. Before I get started though, I just want to let you know that to get your circles down, I either use my handy dandy glue stick or the Coats & Clark Summer Brown thread to baste it down with, one of the two. So I'm going to be I'm going to show you how to do the beads. On this very first one, actually, the very first block, I had done a row of beads around the outside, and somebody had asked for me, this one here, just a row of beads there. Somebody had asked me how to show me how to do that. So that's what I'm going to do today. So you're going to need a beading needle for this. They are in a size, they are really tiny. They're very bendy. The eye is super small. The kind of thread I either use what they call NYMO, N-Y-M-O, or I use Eslon. It's also super thin. And so some people are like, well, can't you just use like a very thin thread? I guess maybe if you have a beading needle that's got a little bit bigger eye, because part of what is so nice about the Eslon and the NYMO is that it's kind of coated, so it's kind of slick. And it goes through the eye of the needle a lot easier. And also, whenever you're threading it, if your thread would split, you can usually just grab onto a piece of it and pull, and the whole thing will come through anyway. So it's kind of nice to you know, if your thread splits on you a lot or whatever. The only other answer that I have is to use a lot bigger beads, and then you can use just a regular needle. But if you're going to be using like size 11 or size 15, which are like, you know, these are 11s. Those are pretty tiny. If you're going to be using size 11s or size 15s, you're going to need a beading needle for the most part, unless you've managed to find some big holed beads, which they do make, although I don't know where you get them. And these are like 15s, so you can see just how tiny they are. And these are 15s that actually have pretty big holes too, so they don't always have holes that big. A lot of times the holes are very small. So I'm going to be using, I think these are 6s. No, these are 8s. I'm going to be using these size 8s to demonstrate for you, because I'm still going to use my beading needle and my beading thread, but I'm just going to demonstrate to you because they're nice and big, and then hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So this is basically the bead embroidery stitch. So tie a knot in your thread, and I'm going to do a double knot actually, because this thread is very, very, very fine, and I'm worried it would come through. So you're going to do, this is your typical bead embroidery stitch. So you can do as many as, I would say, four at a time, but I tend to use just 2. And so you take it like that and you pull them down, and then whatever your design is or whatever direction you're going in, you put it down into the thread, and then you have your 2 beads laying there together. Now for the first 2, I quite often come back up to the back and go through them again, especially if they're bigger, you know. Okay, so then you're going to take 2 more, and I hope you can see that, and they go in there. So now you've got 4. So now what I do is I go back to the 3rd bead. I can't see like how close I am to the actual bead, but anyway, I go back to the 3rd bead and I go through all 3 of them, and then I add 2 more, and then the same thing. Then you just go back through this, you go back 3, and then go, so you're going through the 1 from the previous stitch plus the 2 you just added, and there you go. Now the reason I don't do 4, a lot of people do 3 or 4, and if your beads are smaller, it's not as big a deal to do more, but if you do 4 at a time, they don't lay as well. They kind of get wonky. So you get your 4 in, and then you go back through and go through them like that. I have the hiccups. Which is fine, but then when you add 4 more, it's kind of like it starts to crease where, I don't know how to explain it. So like if you add 4 more, that means you'd have to go all the way back to 5 and go through all 5 again. Because otherwise, if you just do like the last 2 or 3, then these are kind of like not anchored. So they start, when you start doing like a whole round of them, whoops, well, of course I messed up. Of course I messed up, because it's me. But anyway, if you, once you see how they don't lay even, like these are up, these are raised up, and these are not, because these you didn't go through again. So if you're going to add 4 at a time, then you're going to have to go back to the 5th one and go through all 4 again. It's going to take you forever, and you're going to use a lot more thread. Whereas if you just add 2 at a time, then you can kind of go back through and reinforce all of them. The other thing is, when you're using smaller beads, you can't go through them too many times, because the hole won't let you. You get too much thread in there, and then you can't get your needle through. So anyway, but that's how you do bead embroidery. Now this is how, let me see what I've got laying around here. Okay, so this is how I make this. Is you put your cabochon down on a piece of lacy stiff stuff or Pellon or something like that, and you go around and you start with 1 row all the way around, and that's how I do that. It's 2 beads, go through the 3rd one, 2 beads, go through the 3rd, all the way around. And then, of course, this is a peyote stitch, so then you have to step up and do the next row, and you have to step up. You have to remember that step. But anyway, not that I'm teaching you how to do the beading thing, but I'm just letting you know that this technique is what I use when I make these, and it's also the technique that I use for this block, just outlining around. So there you go. Those are my tips on how to do bead embroidery and what to use. And yeah, I think that's it. So I did two blocks. And this one was the same thing. It was the same technique. You just come up, put 3 beads on, and go down through. And then I just went over to the next one. So yeah, so then there are those 2. So yeah, I think that from here on out, I'm probably just going to be using combinations of stitches that I've already shown you, because I'm kind of limited on circular stitches. There aren't a whole lot of stitches that are really good to use for circular. So anyway. Okay, so this is the week before and last week when Hugo ate it. This is the replacement of Hugo's, my dog, one of my dogs. So, okay, I hope that helped, and I hope that you will have fun making something. Thank you. Bye.